Good evening, everyone, to the Finance Committee meeting for October 13, 2020. So the first item in our agenda is the call to order, and Gabriela and Randy, so we have quorum. Okay. Next in our agenda is the approval of the minutes. So we have the first draft of the minute for the September 22nd, 22. This was the Finance Committee meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Oh, I'm sorry. Any question? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, the motion carried. The next is the approval of the draft minute for the September 29 and September 30, 2020 for the department budget presentation.
Motion to approve.
Any question? All those in favor say aye.
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 The motion carries. So next in our agenda is the public appearance for non-agenda item. Do we have anyone in the chamber online? No, okay. So then we move to the finance director report. So Misty.
Yes, so first up, we do have our monthly COVID report on here. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but just point out some of the things that have changed or been updated since the last one. One just kind of housekeeping thing is some finance directors are calling it R2R and some are RTR for routes to recovery. So I put both of them in there, but if you hear me use those interchangeably, that's why. We have had a pretty significant increase in the use of our emergency paid sick leave, both on the emergency responder side and on the staff side, as just numbers in Dane County in particular are going up. It's not surprising, but something that I thought I would point out to you.
So I have a question, Misty. Those because we have people with COVID in the city?
Or have COVID-like symptoms or have some exposure or their significant other or someone in their household. So that's a very broad definition. Ultimately, we want to encourage people to stay home if there's any chance that they have it.
Okay.
If not, they do. The next section is the budget amendment that you guys authorized. So this would be for things that we don't expect to get reimbursed from for the grants. There were some movements on this chart. So one is the phone. Things ended up being eligible for reimbursement through the CARES funding. So that was taken off of here. The labor attorney has changed recently. So that is now allowed to be eligible under the CARES funding. And then the cleaning contract, as we talked about that last report, that has been officially terminated and will only go through the time that the grant would pay for it. So it's actually, the contract is terminated October 31st and the grant goes through November 6th. So there will not be any additional amount that the city will have to pay for. Then scrolling down to the utility piece. So some movement here. The moratorium on disconnections has been extended again through November 30th. So that we are doing. And then we sent out our quarterly utility bills. Another thing that I just thought was interesting is we've had to explain to a lot of our customers that the utility bills are higher for this quarter than what they may have seen in other quarters, with more people spending their time at home, using your own toilets and using your own kitchens for lunch and stuff like that. A lot of the bills are higher, at least on the residential side. So we've had to explain that quite a bit this quarter. On the business boost loans, so we did award one more loan with the last round, so another $10,000 one. And then the next round, those are due this Thursday. We have at least one more that's applying. I don't know if they'll be eligible or not, but it does look like there's some more people that are interested, which is good. Then on the routes to recovery section, there is some added language in here. I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago that the rules have changed again, which is a good thing for us. So it started as pretty much nothing was eligible. Then they reversed course and a lot of things were eligible. Then there was the conflicting language that made it seem like there was another piece that was ineligible. Now that has been cleared up and we're back to kind of normal there. Plus they've expanded it even beyond that. So we are in a very favorable position at this point. But the biggest lesson I've learned with all of this is that it keeps changing. So I'm not going to necessarily count on it at this point. We did submit our first reimbursement request for the September 15th deadline, and we were fully awarded that amount. It was about $52,000. I did not include any of the payroll costs because there was still a lot of confusion in that area. So that was just the direct cost because of COVID that we submitted through September 15th. They also added another expenditure reimbursement period. So this Thursday, I have another opportunity to submit more for reimbursement. So I'm working on that currently. And then the last one is still that November timeframe. My plan is still to keep all the payroll stuff at the end, because again, things keep changing. So it's not like we will lose out on it, but I'll just do the stuff I know is eligible, because that's never changed during these interim times. And then we'll do everything in November to make sure that we are able to get our full allocation. The WEC CARES grant, that $18,000, Tracy has submitted her first reimbursement request for that, and we have used that full amount of the funding. So it was a great help, but it is fully spent and we haven't gotten to the election yet. Some good news though, we were awarded a new grant. So it's the Center for Tech and Civic Life grant, and it's a private donation, another $16,519.50, specifically for the November election. So there's a few different things it's eligible for. Here at the city, we're going to use it to pay for that additional LTE, the overtime, and the postage costs associated with those, the large increase in the absentee ballots. So it's a nice little, another amount for us to help subsidize our significantly increased costs. Then on the revenue side, other reports have had this intergovernmental revenues, which is our state aids and our county aids and all of those. I've had those as unknown because we didn't really know what was going to happen with the state budget in particular. At this point, we're getting really late in the year, so I changed that to say that there was no impact. I haven't heard anything otherwise. And then the 2021 amount, at least for GTA, we talked about that during the budget presentations, that it's pretty stable for next year. So at this point, we don't foresee there being too much impact there. And then obviously all of the amounts were updated just for the new year to date. So it's through September instead. One of the questions you guys always ask me during this report is about the emergency procedures that we have in place for that are in line with the Dane County's emergency. That was extended again, and that is currently going through the end of the year. That's all I have, unless you have questions on the COVID report. Excellent. So other than that, we have our budget public hearing tonight. So this is the chance for the public to give us information or how they feel about the mayor's proposed budget. So hopefully we'll have some people turn out for that tonight. Council amendments or proposed amendments are then due on Thursday at 4:30 using that form that I emailed out to you guys. And then end of next week, all of those amendments will be posted to the website for the public. And then the October committee of the whole meeting, which is not next week, but the week after, is where we'll do all of the discussion on those amendments. So moving right along.
Okay, thank you. Any question for Misty? Randy? No?
No, nothing here. Thank you.
Okay. So thank you, Misty. So next we are moving to the review of our bills. So the first batch is the review of the detailed check for $10,000 and above dated September 16, 2020 to September 30th, 2020, totaling $3,840,534.15. Any question? I have. One second. Oh, God, where is it now? Okay, so I have a question about the Promega, the pay-go payment. So that one is for what TID number?
It's for TID 4, and it's for the processing facility. So we make We make principal and interest payments April 1st, and then interest-only payments October 1st.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's in line with the development agreement. There's actually a few different interest payments that were made there. All of them did have sufficient increment to make the full payment as scheduled.
Okay, and what about the sub-zero? That one is one. That sub-zero, which one is that one? Is that one is the number 9, but
Yep, and that would be for the expansion. So not the new building that they're currently constructing. This is the development agreement we had for the expansion of the original building.
oh, okay, so we are paying some part of those expenditure already.
For the expansion, which is all done and moved in.
Oh, yeah, I know what you said. The expansion, the other one. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Then I have another one. Anyone? Gabriela or?
I think we both have questions, so go ahead, Gabriella.
Then we have another one from the Black Hawk Evangelical Free, I don't know what it is. What is that? The church?
Yep, so whenever, well, not most of the time, when there's a development or a new building that comes in, that's a commercial building, we require a deposit for certain
Oh,
things. This would be the return of that deposit. They met all of the requirements, so all of the money that we were still holding, we reimbursed to them.
Randy?
My question was just answered. Thank you, Misty.
And there is another one for the pond, the vine pond. I don't know where it is.
The Burn Pond retrofit.
Yeah, where is that?
So it's on that same page, just a couple more down. So this would be a payment on the construction project to the vendor, and then you'll see there's a negative amount of retainage. That's a portion of the payment that we retain to make sure that they meet their requirements. And then at the end of the project, assuming everything is done well, we will release that retainage back to them.
But that one was from. Okay, so my question is because I heard some comment that we are redoing this pond. This is for. I want to know this. We had to pay extra for redoing some of the project. I don't know, Bill.
Oh,
Maybe you can
thank
ask.
you. He can get us the information.
At this point, there is some additional work that had to be done to finish the grading and get it graded correctly. And there is a little bit of extra that's in that payment. Yes.
But it's going to be covered with this amount, or we are expecting to see more?
This payment in the check here is for about 50% of the construction. You'll see another payment for the remainder, the balance of the construction.
Okay. Any other question?
I do have a couple.
Thank you, Bill.
Randy has a couple. And
Okay.
This one is, well, let's just stay with Bill. Since you and I spoke and Tom Clauder spoke regarding the burn pond, is that work being done now? I was led to believe from a neighbor that there was some movement out there.
Yeah, last week the city was in there to take out the additional topsoil pile that was in that area. So we did some work in there to that effect. We also, the contractor will be in there finishing up the seeding and working on the solution that we had proposed for getting that water to drain down. That's in that low area.
Okay, thank you. I know it's not a finance, but since we had you here, thought I would ask the question. The other question I have is the stormwater Seminole Pond. It's a small amount, 2,500. Is there some movement on the Seminole Forest Pond or that I'm not aware of? And it says Department of Transportation. Exactly what is that? Maybe Misty or even Bill can answer?
Where is that?
Page 2, there's a number of itemized McKee Construction Oversight, McKee Construction Oversight, Sanitary Sewer, McKee Water Utility.
Okay.
It's a small dollar amount, roughly 2,500.
Yeah, that's part of the construction of the pond. The DOT does have some oversight of that. So depending on what was worked on that month, we get invoiced individually for those. So this was not a very big month with a big invoice, so that's why it's only $2,500.
But we are doing some work on Seminole Pond? I guess I'm just not aware of that.
Oh, yeah.
Or will be?
Yes.
Well, the
A
only
big
reason, you may laugh, but I've met with neighbors and there just seems to be a lot of people in this churn and I'm just trying to figure out exactly what's going on. I mean, I can meet with the neighbors and I appreciate them meeting with me, but I'm sorry that I'm not
Maybe
educated.
you are confused. You're confusing ponds here.
All right, all right, we'll talk offline.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, so next we move to the detailed review of all check issue, check number 1211-1275 dated September 16, 2020 to October 30, 2020, totaling $3,972,924.12. Any question? No? Okay. So next we move to the detailed review of all ACH payment for $10,000 and above. September 20 for $484,973.80. Any question? Nope, okay. And then we move to the detailed review of all ACH payments. September 20, ACH totaling $487,444.58. Any question? No? Okay. Thank you. So then we move to the action items. The first item in our agenda is we are going to have a road reconstruction update from our Public Works Director, Bill Bolke. Bill?
Good evening. For road construction, we're wrapping things up. Everything is we're trying to get all the asphalt down before it gets too cold. For the Fish Hatchery Road project, some pavement has gone down in the southbound lanes there between Greenway Cross and Post Road. So we're in the process of completing that for paving. And then we're going to be finishing that up within the next 2 weeks. So everything as far as paving goes should be done by October 28th. And the line stripes will go down and be ready to be switched for the next phase of traffic. We are running into some headaches up there at Greenway Cross. Again, it's the busiest intersection of the city for utilities. And we found a huge underground electrical service line that went through the middle of our proposed 42-inch storm sewer that had to come and get relocated. So that was something that we didn't anticipate. We took we found it on both sides of where we needed to go, but unfortunately it went up and over right through the middle of where we need to put the pipes. So that's a scramble that's going to be pushing the paving of Greenway Cross later into November. And so it's manageable. We got everybody on board what needs to get done up there. It's just one of those last minute hiccups that we didn't expect. So with the other major project that we have for McKee Road, that one is on track to finish paving within the next 2 weeks as well. And then we have to do some finish up work up there, but we're planning on having that done by the first or second week in November as well. There's a traffic closure under Verona Road tomorrow night for some paving operations and traffic signals that they're changing up there. You'll be able to drive up to the intersection, but you won't be able to drive under the new bridge. So just making people aware that we've got that update there. And our resurfacing project for the streets is all complete. We're finishing up some work in McKee Farms Park right now with some paving. And then that project will be a wrap as well.
So for the fish hatchery, you mentioned that there is a new issue there. Do we need to pay extra for that?
No, all the cable is in the right of way, so the utilities are responsible for the relocation.
Okay. And what happened with you mentioned in the last meeting that there was an issue with MG&E with the box that had to be removed in the intersection of Seminole and McKee. What is the update there?
We're still working on that. We're going to be issuing all of the responses at one time for any discrepancies that we had during the construction. And so we're keeping track of all of those. We did get the final bill on it. It was about $100,000 less than what we anticipated it to be, actually 150,000 less. So it's a big number, but at least it's going down.
So we are gonna try to pass that cost to the design team?
That's what we're looking to do, pass some of that cost back to the design team, right?
Yeah, okay. Okay. Any question for Bill? No? Okay. Thank you, Bill. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-154-20, engineer services for the Sain Road reconstruction. This one was postponed from the September 22nd meeting.
Motion to approve?
Okay, who is gonna explain this?
Oh, you don't need a second? Okay. Thank you. I'll go and explain this. The reconstruction of Sain Road is in our capital improvement plan for the past few years for reconstruction. And the limits are from Aurora Avenue all the way up to McCoy Drive or McCoy Road or the intersection of McCoy and Sain up there. The project that we have before you tonight is for the design portion of the construction services. We had put out an RFP through the State Journal and through our design or our online advertising agency, it's Quest CDN now. And then we received 8 proposals through that process. We had 4 engineers rank those proposals based on the experience they had with similar projects, the qualifications of their personnel, the completeness of the project approach, the familiarity with Fitchburg requirements, the experience with preparation with transportation project plats or right-of-way acquisition, the ability to meet the proposed work schedule, and cost. The reason that we asked for a cost in there is just to make sure that the scope or the proposal that they had in their proposal is in the same realm with the hours that need to prepare those for each part of the scope. So after we had evaluated those, we ranked them 1 through 8 and invited the top 2 to come in for an interview. After the interview, we had completed with the 2 firms of Mead and Hunt and KL Engineering. We had evaluated based on those interviews that KL was going to be the engineer that we were going to invite in for a scoping meeting to determine the scope of the full contract. The proposals that we did receive and we went back and forth for a couple of months on their costs versus the hours that we felt that they would need to complete the task, and came up with what you see before you in the council packet for the design costs. The reason that it's a little bit higher than what we had estimated for the design is because there's some other aspects of pre-construction that we had to have in there as well, such as the geotechnical borings that we would have had a separate contract for. So we're going to have KL Engineering manage that as well, so they can determine where those borings need to be and just cut down on the coordination of that. We also had them look at some more detail of some options for the different areas So their costs increased a little bit with that. And then with the railroad coordination, we removed some of the work from their work because city staff was going to do it. And so that came down a little bit for the cost. So we're asking for approval of the design fees for KL Engineering. We are going to, we already have some of the work ongoing with them through some contracts that we had let previously. Because of the timeline, we need to have the survey completed and the wetland delineation completed before winter. So what we'll be doing is you'll see a change. You'll be approving this full amount, but you'll see a change order coming through to deduct the current contracts from that full design cost.
Yeah, I have a several question about this resolution. I want to know first if this, it was approved in the other commission that it was referred out?
Yes, it was approved by RCC, TTC, and Board of Public Works.
Okay. My other question is, I am looking at the package and I don't see the other, I only see the bid with the amount for KL Engineer. I don't see the amount from the other bids. I don't know, why it's not in the package for comparison to know. I see zeros.
Right. The reason we didn't put those in there is it really didn't compare apples to apples with all the proposals. Some of the proposals didn't include all of the work that was required, so you'll see a lower bid price. Some of the work didn't include enough hours, or their rates were very high, but they didn't include enough hours to account for it. So you'll see prices that are similar. So there really wasn't we didn't feel that it really had a bearing on the final cost for the design contract.
And then, so it seems that the price for this is $680,000, but this in the purchase order information, there is a $786,400. So on page 7. So what is this?
That would be a contingency in case we have to add work to the contract, such as we find out we need to add additional pond, we have to acquire additional real estate. The public says we need to come up with a different idea for an intersection. So there's some of those items in there that we were accounting for extra hours that may happen.
So my question is, so we are approving something for $680,000 or for $786,000?
It would be the $706,000.
What is that is not included in the resolution page?
Oh. Yeah, the contract with KL Engineering is for the $680,000, and then we have the contingency for the purchase order that would be there if we needed it. So
in case that, suppose that we are approving this for $680,000 and then something happened, because it seems like always having something, then we have to have another amendment to the budget for this, to use the contingency fee?
I don't think so, Misty.
No, so since you're authorizing a budget amendment to pay for the contingency as well as the amount the contract is over, that encompasses the whole thing. So if a change order is needed that would dip into the contingency, for lack of a better word, it does not go back to council as long as it's within the contingency amount. If we have a change order that's above the contingency amount, then it would have to come back.
So we are approving something for $786,000.
You're approving a contract for the $600,000 number, but you're authorizing staff to spend up to the $700,000 number for things that come up during the process.
So, and the difference is coming from that, you mentioned here, $10,000 for the water utility, 10,000 from the sewer, 81 from stormwater. So from where is gonna come the difference?
Yep, so the 10,000 from water is funded by assessment, so those will be charged back to the benefiting property. Same with the sewer, that's funded by assessments. The 81,000 for stormwater would be funded by rates, so the different fees that are collected by the fund. 80,000 of the increase is in TID 4. TID 4 is healthy and has sufficient increment to cash flow that difference. And then 50,000 is TID 13, which is the new one in Uptown that hasn't collected enough increment to pay for it yet, but we expect it to in a very short amount of time.
Okay, so because I want to understand what we're doing and I want the public to understand. So practically if you mentioned that it doesn't have to come to council again, because when we are approving this resolution with this additional amount that I mentioned, is gonna be covered the contingency.
Correct.
So, okay, and why we don't put in resolution the amount of the contract, and then we make it more clear for people to understand what we're voting here?
We simply, as a streamlined process, we reference it back to that pre-approval form, which is then attached to the resolution as the official record.
Yeah, but we need to also make it hard for people that they are, that they don't understand that they need to. I ask this question because I always asking this question because it seems that we are missing in the resolution sometimes putting the amount that we are voting. Because for me, when I vote this page, where is the resolution, and I would like to see exactly what is the amount that we are voting. You know what I mean? So now I thought it was 680, but then we started digging and asking all these questions additional. We are approving a project for $708,000. So okay, thank you. Any question? Gabriela.
Bill, I'm curious about I'm happy that there's 2 neighborhood meetings included in the plan. I'm curious about how those work in terms of, so when the neighborhood meetings occur, is there an opportunity for meaningful change to the plan, or is it typically more of a information session to let people understand what's coming?
The first meeting that we'll have is public input gathering. So it is truly a gathering information. We've got, some ideas on, what we'd like to accomplish. We'll highlight those. And then we invite the public to take a look at those ideas and provide feedback on anything that they've seen or they would like to see in that first meeting. Then we take that information, we get it up to about 60% of the design, and then we'll have another public informational meeting to show, how we've incorporated or could not incorporate, the suggestions. And so then that's kind of a verification that, we've done as much as we can with the design. We need to go forward and nail it down so that we can finish the design, acquire real estate interest and things like that.
Great. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that there's an opportunity for people to really weigh in. And then in terms of timing, is that something you expect to have those meetings over the winter, or should we look to those sometime next year in the spring, or will this be scheduled once this contract goes through?
They'll be scheduled. I think we have a tentative schedule in there as to when the first public informational meeting is and the second one. If not, it's going to be January and probably June or July, I think.
Okay. And then I'm also curious about the information that we need to provide. There's that list of different information that the city of Fitchburg has to provide to KL Engineering. And one of the things that includes is aerial photographs and topographic maps, and then orthophotography. Is that something that we have to contract out since we don't have the ability to do that in-house?
Dane County houses all of that information. They just need authorization from the city to release it to the consultant. So we've already purchased, you know, our rights to that information. So
And is that updated yearly or?
it's usually every other year.
Okay, and can we have access to that for any sort of use? Like, if we wanted to take a look at it from, anyway, well, let's touch base on that. I'm curious more about
Okay.
that information, so let's touch base later. Thanks.
Any other question?
I do have one question for Bill.
Okay, Randy?
You mentioned early on that you didn't include the other packages for the bid process. Correct me if I'm wrong. And you had some reasons for that. When this goes out for bid, do they not do all the other all the other vendors not bid on the same contract? Are there, I don't know, I guess if you could explain that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, we have a certain set of specifications that all of the proposals would have to meet regarding the scope of the project, their understanding, you know, the team that they're putting together, the familiarity with the project, you know, things like that. And then, you know, we asked them for their references basically, and what they, how they provide that. It varies from company to company. And sometimes you'll get a company that didn't put a lot of information into their proposal. It's very cookie cutter. It doesn't specifically address the needs that we have within the community. And so you won't rank them very high. There's other ones that will go overboard, and they'll put everything in the sun in their proposal to have with the city, and their price might be really high. So we do consider all of the different criteria from the different vendors. They're all required to submit, you know, based upon the same set of standards. It's just that each one's just a little bit different as to how they approach the project.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other question, comment? Okay, all those in favor of resolution R-15-20, say aye.
Aye.
I haven't heard from Randy.
Aye.
Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-165-20, replacement of fleet van.
I move to approve.
So, who is gonna, oh, the chief. Hi, chief.
Good evening, everyone. How are you all doing today?
Fantastic.
Excellent. So I've got a few vehicles to talk about this evening. All of them had been previously approved through the CIP process. So now we're obviously had the opportunity with all that's been going on in our year to get at making these purchases. So the first one we'll talk about is a van. We are replacing a full-size van that the department has had for 10 years or so. And we are going to be buying a minivan, which will allow a much more regular use for that van, used for training and other things, and be a much more efficient vehicle for us than what that full-size van is. As an added, I'll say bonus, Fact TV is going to buy our fleet van from us for the price that we would have received for trade-in on that van, and that's approximately $8,300. So in a way, I guess it's kind of a win for both departments, in that that van has still got some useful life for the Fact crew. And in talking with Jeremy, it looks like it's going to meet their needs quite well. The cost of the van that we have submitted at this point in time is just under $29,000, and that is off of state contract. And we also looked at that same van in a hybrid model. And the state contract pricing for a hybrid model of that van was about $38,000. So it was about a $9,000 difference. We elected just to submit for the regular powered version at this point in time, but obviously I have no aversion if If the city has a desire for that van to be a hybrid option, the only issue is the money to pay for that additional cost for the hybrid, which I don't have budgeted. So that's where we're at with the van. Is there any questions in regards to the van?
So what was the amount approved in the CIP?
$30,000 was what we had estimated for the cost of the van. We also estimated a trade-in of $5,000 on the van that we are replacing. So a net deposit, if you will, into the CIP account was $25,000 to cover the cost of that van. So obviously we're going to come out a little bit ahead with the trade-in amount being $8,300 versus the $5,000 that we had estimated. So we will be under budget, to answer your question in a roundabout way there, by about, my math is by about $4,000.
And then my other question to Misty is that FACT TV need to do an amendment to the budget to absorb the purchase of this vehicle. How is going to be done?
So they have a replacement fund set up, and
Okay.
there's sufficient money in their replacement fund in order to do the purchase.
Okay, thank you. Gabriela.
Thanks, Chief. I'm curious about the use of this vehicle is, in terms of choosing a hybrid vehicle, which you know I'm interested in. I assume that certain vehicles that the police department uses are idling more often and using more gas on the whole. Do you have a sense of like which vehicles use the most gas? Just because in terms of, you know, cost benefit analysis, it seems that those that are spending the most time would be the best options for potentially replacing it with a hybrid model.
Yeah, any of our patrol vehicles are going to be the ones that idle the most. They've got the emergency equipment in them. They've got electronics and video cameras and computers and all of those things in those cars. So those are the ones that are going to be idling the most. Those are the ones that are out 24/7 and for the most part. And this van is not one of those vehicles. This is it's basically a fleet administrative van that staff will use to go downtown to court. Once court begins to happen again in person, it will also be used for people to go to training, both our quarterly in-service training, which has 5 dates per session, and any other training that might be held that our staff is attending, any specialized training. And then there are times where we may use this van, you know, by command staff or detectives or those sorts of things, just to take care of their business that they need to do as well. So that's basically the use for that vehicle. And again, it's a much more conducive package being a minivan than a full-size van for those sorts of things.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other question? All of in favor of approving resolution R-165-20, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. Next, I am looking for a motion to approve resolution R-168-20. Is the purchase of the replacement K9 squad.
Motion to approve?
Okay. Thank you, Randy.
So as Alder Radafrada mentioned, this resolution is to replace our K9 squad. I believe the current squad is about 7 years old. And I know I've just put at least a couple $1,000s into that car in the last couple months here for repairs. So it is at its end of life. So we are looking to replace that again with Ford Sport Utility Patrol vehicle that Ford has come out with several years ago now. The cost for that vehicle is approximately $35,000 or just under $35,000. That is on state contract, and that is the gas-powered version. We looked at the hybrid option that Ford has released this year for their SUV patrol hybrids. Dane County has a handful, a small number in service, and Madison PD has 27 of them in service. And as much as I wanted to be recommending a hybrid, which the price premium was only about $4,000 more, the feedback from both Madison and Dane County at this point in time says that from their experience, the hybrid is not ready for patrol work. There's inconsistency in its acceleration as it transitions from the hybrid engine to the gas-powered engine. Both departments are having electrical issues associated with it. And the electrical issues are not with the hybrid powertrain. The electrical issues are with the aftermarket police equipment, the radios, the computers, the lighting, and so forth that are being caused. Madison PD has mentioned that their check engine lights are coming on regularly on those hybrids. And there's also some charging system issues with a couple of their hybrids as well. So neither the Sheriff's Office or Madison PD are recommending those hybrid utilities for patrol work at this point in time. They feel like perhaps in the future, as Ford gets a bit more experience with them over time, that they'll be better suited for the patrol demands. But at this point in time, they feel like they're not there yet. And in fact, Madison's experience has said that they're spending a lot more time shuffling those cars back into the maintenance garage for work than they're probably recouping in the gas savings right now. So again, and of all cars, to be honest with you, as a follow-up, Gabriella, to your question earlier, a K9 car is clearly one of those cars that's going to idle the most because of the climate control necessity for the dog. I was ready to actually recommend a hybrid until we got the feedback from the Sheriff's Office and Madison PD on that, because I felt that would have been by far the most bang for the buck that we could have gotten on a hybrid. And again, the premium there was less than $4,000. So I think to kind of bring it full circle on those hybrids in patrol, I think we're due to replace a car next year, patrol car next year. I don't know if we'll be ready at that point in time to recommend the hybrid, but it's something that I think is worthy of, to evaluate every year we're buying a patrol car to see if those that are using them feel like the issues have been resolved. Now, one of the questions will be is, if Madison's experience, for instance, with 27 hybrids has been not so positive, will they continue to buy hybrids the next couple of years to kind of see if those kinks have worked out? I don't know. I think it's worthwhile right now to kind of allow others to work those issues out versus us with a bit smaller pockets than the Madisons and larger fleets of the world.
You know what you need? You need a Tesla. That when you're going to have the acceleration. That you need.
All right, I'll submit one of those for the next fleet vehicle, the next fleet/admin car. We'll bring the Tesla forward.
Okay,
I'll remember that, right? I'll expect at least one yes vote on the council for that.
Hey, you want acceleration? Okay, Gabriela.
Thank you so much for providing all that information about the hybrid vehicles. That's very, very helpful for me, and I really appreciate you considering that. And I'm actually really happy that Dane County and Madison are able to do some testing for us, essentially, which is really great, especially since they're dealing with the same weather conditions as we will. So that's really fantastic, and I'm happy to hear. I assume that you'll stay in contact with them about that as we move forward. And it sounds like my hope is that we can start funding this hybrid electric vehicle fund and build up a fund so that when these purchases become feasible for the city, that it's something that we can just do right away. So I appreciate you keeping this in mind and giving that context for the vehicles. And so, yeah, more of a comment than a question, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, and we'll absolutely stay engaged on that conversation. It's nice that Madison has a large number in service instead of, the handful that Dane County has. You don't know if those are just maybe, a couple of issues here and there, but, I think Madison has a nice sample set that they're working with right now that gives us a pretty good picture of where things are at.
I have a final question. How many miles that this car that you're replacing now has?
Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I think it's probably north of 125,000 miles.
Okay.
But I'm not positive about that. If you'd like that information, I can certainly
it's fine.
inquire about that. But that car engine about 7 years old, or just over 7 years old.
No,
so-
because for curiosity, people can say why you're replacing a car every, it's a 7-year-old car, you know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is what I asked the question,
Yep, and it's certainly a fair question, and these cars are not driven in the way that a 7-year-old car owned by Alder Arata Frada is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So they get a tad bit more wear and tear over that 7
Yeah.
years.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Okay, so any other question? All those in favor of resolution R-168-20 say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the motion carries. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-171-20 is the purchase of a police department fleet vehicle.
So yes, this is the last one for the list. This
Oh,
is
we need a second.
I'm
moved
sorry.
Okay.
I'm just so excited to get
Yeah.
this third one done.
Yeah, you're buying cars.
They've been sitting out there for a while. It's something I gotta get checked off my 2020 list here.
Yeah.
So this is also a fleet vehicle that was approved in the CIP. It is a new addition to the fleet that was added and approved, I think, 2 years ago ultimately, but it was put on the agenda for 2020. We are proposing to add another gas-powered vehicle here. This vehicle is going to be used by command staff and investigative staff primarily. We are looking at an SUV, an all-wheel drive SUV. Typically, we buy those because of the fact that we have Wisconsin winters, and we've got 35 square miles of urban, suburban, and rural area to cover potentially with any of the vehicles that we do have. Of any vehicle or use for a vehicle, being command staff or administrative detective staff, I mean, the hybrid SUV from Ford probably has the most potential to be successful early on in that application, because command staff and investigators are not driving those cars in a patrol type way where they would be as concerned about the acceleration. The only issue that I have right now is I still feel with the electrical issues out there with the hybrids and the fact that we're still dealing with the first year of them, that I still would be a little bit concerned, or more than a little bit concerned, about going and being an early adopter. But of the vehicles that we do have right now and the type that they're used, this type of application is, I think, where the hybrids will become, the earliest is where they'll become usable in our world. We're looking at about, or I think it was just under $30,000 for this SUV. It was, there were 3 bids obtained. There actually was a 28 and change, I think. I got to pull up the resolution here. It was just over 28,000. We did obtain 3 bids on this because this particular option package is not on the state contract. That's why you see the 3 bids there. The baseline SUV in this model that's on state contract was about $900 less than what I have quoted here. The reason for the additional cost is we went with a municipal fleet model that is not on state contract for whatever reason, and that municipal fleet model has some driver safety packages to include the forward collision warning, the automatic emergency braking, and the lane keeping assist. So I feel it's important to mitigate the risk to the city, and also to potentially mitigate any injury to city employees or others to invest that additional $900 in a vehicle with these sorts of safety features. So that's why you saw the 3 quotes. Typically, we always try to buy off a state contract. It just makes the whole process a bit easier. But we decided that the safety features were worthwhile, and since we couldn't get that option package on the base model, we had to look at the municipal fleet model. Any questions on that particular car?
Any question? No? Okay, all of you in favor of resolution R-171-20, say aye.
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 Aye, nays, the motion carried. Thank you, Chief. You
Thank
can
you,
buy your
everyone.
cars. Okay, so next I need a motion to approve resolution R-172-20, authorizing acceptance of the proposal from AE2S, I don't know, for a stormwater management study for the Curry Court and the Old Indian Trail area.
Motion to approve.
Okay, so Bill.
Thank you. The city did go through a similar process to procure services for design of the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail area for stormwater management. We went out for bid. We solicited proposals. We received 5 proposals. We ranked them in order based upon the similar criteria that we had for this project. And again, 2 of the top firms that came out of it was A2S and also Mars EOR. We did invite those 2 consultants in for an interview, and after the interview, decided that to go with AE2S based upon the upon what they could provide for solving the problems in that area. They had a very good proposal, and we recommended to go with them. We did increase their scope a little bit to one of the options that they had was to look at a pumping option in the area to see if it would alleviate groundwater and the nuisance problem in the area. So we did have, that is one of the alternatives that we're looking at because it was specifically one of the issues that was brought up in the neighborhood. The funding for the project will come from a capital improvement project that we had for the Seminole Village pond expansion and the dredging. That we had $650,000 allocated in the CIP for that. We needed about $350,000 based upon the bid price. So we do have the remaining $300,000 plus or minus from that project that we could use for other stormwater related projects. And we felt that this was a good project to move up. It is in the capital improvement for 2022. And we would like to move it up to right now because we do have problems with flooding in the area on Curry Court that is causing property damage. And we'd like to have this study completed so that we can have a good dollar amount and a good idea what the solution will be for the 2021 CIP for construction.
Yeah, I have a question, Bill. So why you are transferring money from one to, one project to the other one? It wasn't included this study in the CIP, the money?
It is, but it's not until 2021 or 2. Yeah.
Which year, 21 or 22?
I think it was 21 for the study, 22 for the design, and 23 for construction.
The most recent adopted CIP, that's the timing.
Yep.
Okay. So my other question is, I am curious because, Gabriel and I in our district, we have a lot of issues with flooding, and we, and I would like to know what we need to do to put a study also, for the Marquis, the south part of Marquis. So, and this is what I am curious about, that it had to go through a CIP project and then in order to do some sort of a study. But my second question is, I know I am very familiar with the Seminole Pond, the retention pond. You mentioned in the meeting with the neighbors that there were some $90,000 saving in that project. So you are taking that, the idea was to use those savings to replant all the trees that they were removed. So I want to be sure that, is that money coming from that savings, or for another project in the Seminole Pond?
No, it won't come from the tree plantings. We have savings left from that project. The $90,000 is the amount we have less from the construction for the bidding that we have through there.
Oh, the construction, okay.
Yep.
No, because, I want to fight for this tree in the seminar pond, so I want to be sure that, it's not this, we are not talking about the same money, you know what I mean? Okay, okay. Any, what is, it was approved in the other commission that it was referred out?
Yes, the Resource Conservation, the Board of Public Works both approved those.
Any concern from
I
those
think the
commission or
the
comments?
Parks Commission also approved, no concerns, no.
Okay. So you mentioned that in total, the project is gonna be $51,000, even though in the bid, it mentioned is $38,000, almost $40,000. So the difference is the additional work, or what else?
Yeah. Yes, it's the
Okay.
additional work and some contingency.
Okay. Any question, Gabriela?
Yeah, I'm curious just about the history of this project, and we don't have to make this a long conversation, but this issue was identified because of the neighbors brought it to the city, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so typically, for these stormwater types of studies that we eventually lead to some sort of solution from the city, if it's feasible, do those always start with neighbor concerns? Or does it sometimes come from the city itself?
They come from the city as well. We've got a list of areas that have issues and we try to program those in, as staff time allows, during the different phases of the construction. So, yeah, it's both the city and the public that bring forward the issues.
And and just like kind of a general question for somebody, if they're having a stormwater issue, is that something that you would recommend that they submit like a report to the city so there's an awareness of issues? Because I guess I just don't think people always know that that's what they're supposed to do. So I'm just curious if, that's something that obviously the Curry Court and Old Indian Trail neighbors ended up doing. So would you recommend that people do that?
Sure. I mean, they've got the most, valid information out there. They're witnessing it. So we're not always available to be able to go out there and see it and witness it. So, by all means, if there's information that needs to get solved, let us know about it.
Great. Thank you.
Any other question? All those in favor of resolution R-175-20 say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. So next I am looking for a motion to approve resolution R-179. No, sorry. I am looking for a motion to approve resolution R-175-20. A resolution approving a state municipal agreement to fund the CTH, MMA, and McCoy traffic signal and intersection improvements.
Motion to approve.
Okay, Bill.
Right, this is the state municipal agreement for the intersection of County Highway MM and McCoy Road intersection improvements. The state has come up with their agreement for how the cost share is going to be allocated and the specifications within the contract as to what needs to be done by the city to receive those funds. The project is slated for construction in 2022. That's mainly due to the additional design requirements needed for the state bidding process. And we're under design with KL Engineering currently to complete the design. And I think that's about it. If there's any questions.
So it's gonna be paid mostly by Dane County, and then we're paying 10% of that, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah, the grant is for 90% of the construction project that the state would fund, capped at that amount.
Mm-hmm.
The remaining 10% would be split between Dane County and the city of Fitchburg. Basically 2/3, 1/3 based on the number of legs of the intersection.
Okay. Any question? All those in favor of resolution R-175-20, say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. So thank you, Bill. I think that this is the last one from you. So next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-179-20, initial resolution authorizing the general obligation bonds in an amount not to exceed $615,000 for the fire department equipment.
I move to approve.
Okay, so who is gonna be presenting this?
So Greg Ellers, who is our financial advisor from Ellers, no, Greg Johnson from Ellers is here to present. Pass it on to him.
That's okay, Misty. I've been called worse. Oh, good evening, everyone. I thought I would just kind of go through the pre-sale report that was included in your packets that kind of summarizes the purposes of this proposed bond issue. I'll start with kind of the executive summary and then work my way through the financial analysis that was included within the report. So the purposes of this bond issue, there are several. We're financing some fire equipment, some street improvement projects, and we're also refunding some existing debt of the city that was issued back in 2012 to achieve some savings. So specifically for the refunding piece, the interest rates on the bonds that we are refunding are presently at 2 to 3%. Taking advantage of interest rates in the market as they stand presently, we're estimating that the debt service expense would decrease from about $190,544 over the next 9 years. So kind of including this refunding with the new money to take advantage of interest rates for debt that's callable at the present time. The fire department squad will be, the debt service for that will be financed and paid through the ad valorem property tax levy for debt service. For Fitch Hatchery Road, there's a component that is related to TID 10, and then there's a component that's not related to the TID district. For the non-TID portion, the debt service will be paid by property taxes, and for TID 10, that'll be repaid from TID 10 increment revenues. Then the McKee Road Phase 2, the debt service for that will be paid by debt service levy of the city as well. And then the Uptown Road projects, that will be paid through special assessments. So several purposes of the bond issue, some new money funding capital projects, but also refunding or refinancing debt to take advantage of more favorable interest rates. So in terms of kind of some of the schedules that we included in the report, just kind of explain what was identified. So here is the existing general obligation debt. This is just kind of the summary of your current debt profile before we look at the impact of the new financing. So we have your existing debt service payments for all your general obligation debt shown on the far left-hand side. The city annually budgets some money to pay for some of the debt issuance expenses to reduce the borrowing. And then there's some other costs for arbitrage monitoring, and then estimated debt service payments on approved debt issuance is included in the budget as well. And then all these items that are shown in red as kind of offsets, these are all the non-levy revenue sources that the city budgets annually to help make the debt service payment. So notably revenues from TID 4 and TID 6, TID 10 for paying for portions of the TID 10 portion of Fitch Hatchery Road that were financed last year, some lease revenues within the debt service fund, special assessments, some interest earnings, and then some impact fees for fire department improvements. So this net tax levy on the far right-hand side kind of shows how the existing debt levy is projected going forward without any new debt included. So your 2021 budget has a debt service levy of $4,294,801. That's what's in your proposed budget. Then you can see the debt service levy starts to decline, which leaves room for adding in some of these new projects. So in terms of the specific dollar amounts that were identified for each of those projects I listed, here they're shown here on the spreadsheet. So the All of these were provided to us, updated numbers from the city based on what's being financed at this time. So the total project funds, including what's needed to accomplish the refunding, is about $20,230,000. Then when we factor in the transactional expenses, that gets to a net borrowing of $20,590,000. Under state law, anytime you issue general obligation corporate purpose bonds, even though we're issuing one bond issue for $20,590,000, you're required to identify how much of the bond issue is going towards each purpose. So the purposes for bond resolutions under state statutes, there's the fire purpose for the fire department equipment. Streets is all the street projects, and then the refunding is just what's issued to refund the debt that we are refinancing for lower interest rates. So these numbers tie out to all the various purpose resolutions that are included on your agenda for action. So that's a requirement under state law. So it's still all being financed with one bond issue. We're just required to identify how much is going towards each purpose.
Can I ask a question before you move?
Yes.
Misty, what is the non-TID for fish hatchery that we are paying?
So the Fish Hatchery Road construction project as a whole, only a portion of it is actually eligible to be paid back by TID because it's driven by the new development. Some of it is reconstruction that's either outside of the TID area or not contributed or not because of the new development within the TID. So it's the same project, just a different funding source.
Yeah, no, but yeah, my understanding was that everything was included in the TID for that fish hatchery road. So
No.
This is what I asked the question.
No.
I want to know what exactly is outside the TID, because I am 5 million, so.
I can send you the page from the CIP. So there's
Okay.
a piece that's TID funded, a piece that's borrowed, then there's
Okay.
also a City of Madison piece, and then a utility piece.
Okay,
I'll send
thank
that
you.
page out.
Yeah, no, I am curious now. Okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry, Greg.
No problem. Happy to pause for questions. The next pages really just show how all of that debt service is allocated towards each of those purposes and the repayment sources. So the fire department equipment will be amortized through 2035, McKee Road through 2040, both Fitch Hatchery Road pieces through 2040, the TID and non-TID. The Uptown Road is over 10 years with special assessments. And then the refunding is out till 2029. That's just keeping the existing debt at the exact same term that it is now, just lowering the interest rates. So in terms of that savings estimate that I referred to, you can see here that the interest rates on the bonds we're refunding from 2021 to 2029 are 2 to 3%. We're estimating that the new interest rates will be from 0.55% to 1.35%. So you're saving in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $23,000 per year from 2021 through 2029. So again, about $190,544. So certainly some helpful savings to take advantage of debt that's callable at this time. So then in terms of kind of looking at the big picture in terms of how is the tax levy going to change as a result of this financing for the components that aren't being paid by assessments or TID revenues, that's kind of shown here on this tax impact analysis. So we have all of your existing debt, the tax levy, that comes forward from the analysis that broke down all of your existing debt payments. And then we show the principal and interest on, this bond issue. So the $20,590,000. And then we show special assessments that are going to offset the levy being paid for the Uptown project. And then the TID 10 portion, we show the TID revenues that will be necessary from TID 10 to cover their share of Fish Hatchery Road that's being financed this year. So as you'll see, really with, the debt service levy and the change going forward. So from 2020 to 2021, your levy is going up about $155,000. That's based on the levy that was identified in your current draft of your budget. So then we show, going forward from 2022, the levy is projected to decline, but that's really leaving room for other projects in the city's long-term capital improvement plan to kind of, as other projects are financed, that leaves room for some of those to be added in without all of it necessarily resulting in a levy increase. So when we did the long-range financial management plan, we had kind of identified, a long-range levy target of increasing a little over $200,000 a year. Actually, in year 2021, it came in less than that. It was closer to at that $155,000 mark. So we're still, leaving room for future projects, but this really just shows what's outstanding presently and then the impact of the financing that's before you this evening. So another item that we like to look at is the city's general obligation debt limit. So under state law, the amount of principal of general obligation debt cannot exceed 5% of the city's total equalized value. So at the end of 2020, including this issue, you're estimated to be at about 33.4% of your debt limit, which leaves you about 123 million in capacity. It's worth noting in 2021, the city is budgeted to pay down some of your existing debt for TID District number 4. So you'll see there's a healthy recovery of some of your geo debt capacity because you're paying off, budgeted to pay off some of the TID 4 debt next year. So again, leaves capacity for future projects as well. But certainly that's improving from 2020 to 2021 as a result of that TID 4 debt being paid off early. So next, I just want to speak specifically to TID District number 10. Anytime we have a financing that involves tax increment, we want to look and see how the TID is performing and have an idea of how much increment value needs to be generated in order to cover the debt service that's attributable to the TID district. So through construction year 2019, the amount of increment value that's been certified by the Department of Revenue is a little over 33 million of value. Based on some estimates that we received from the city's assessment office, based on construction that's occurring this year, estimated another 27.1 million of increment value will be generated. In order to cover the existing debt of TID 10, the portion of Fitchburg Road that was TID eligible that was financed last year, cover the debt service that's being proposed through this debt issuance, and just handle the other costs and development incentives that have been approved by TID 10 to date, there needs to be another 7.5 million of increment value constructed in 2021, really for the cash flow to work. So when we updated this analysis a few months back in June, presented that to the Joint Review Board, this number was actually considerably higher. There was more increment value that was generated and constructed in 2019 than what was estimated. So that's made the additional increment value that's needed to cover all these costs less than what it was as recently as what we had identified last June. So based on those increment value projections, this just shows the tax increment that's generated over the 27-year life of the district. We're only accounting for what's been constructed through 2019, what's estimated to be constructed this year, and that additional value that's necessary in 2021 for the cash flow to work. And then we have some appreciation of about 0.5%. So we're really not counting on any new value or other new construction really beyond what's needed through 2021. So when we look at the cash flow projection, the main revenue to the TID district is the tax increment. Money is borrowed that comes into this fund as well. There's an existing municipal revenue obligation, pay-as-you-go development incentive for the Plesco development. That's a little over $3 million. We have the estimated repayment of that development schedule shown here. There was a portion of the Fish Hatchery Road that was financed a year ago, attributable to TID District 10. We show that debt service that's outstanding as well, about $4,210,000 in principal for that project, plus the interest. And then we also have some placeholders for other development incentives for the 3101 Fish Hatchery Road project, $3.5 million municipal revenue obligation pay-as-you-go incentive. And then we added in the estimated debt service for this $8,460,000 that's attributable to TID 10 at this time. So taking all of that into account, plus some ongoing administrative costs of the district, based on the increment value that's already been certified, The estimates that the city provided for that 27 million being constructed this year, if 7.5 million is constructed in 2021, the TID district, is projected to close in 2039, just based off of known committed project costs at this time. Excuse me, if the city finances other projects within the TID project plan, or the development assumptions and increment value are less than what's projected here, or more, all those factors can influence that closure year. We look at this at a minimal annually to, stay abreast of what's happening here. But this just kind of shows, what's needed to support the TID 10 project costs. As I said, the additional increment value above what's estimated in 2020 to support these costs is much less than what we were looking at as recently as June of this year. So to summarize, again, this is really kind of accomplishes multiple purposes. We're refinancing some existing debt for savings, financing the Fitchburg TID and non-TID portions, the Uptown Road project, McKee Phase 2, and the fire equipment is all what's incorporated into this bond issue, and all the resolutions on the agenda are related to those various components. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions.
If I may,
Yes,
I'd like to remind you, we have 7 minutes until public safety starts.
Okay, yes, I have a question. Are you gonna be in council meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, you mentioned that we need another additional $7.5 million to break even, the cash flow in 2021. So that one, it should be new development, isn't it?
Yes, that's correct. That would need to be new development.
Yeah. So what happens if we don't have any new development in 2021?
I think what will happen with the cash flow, and let me bring that back up again. When we look at the new debt that's being added, for this particular district, we've kept the debt service payments a little bit lower in those first couple of years, in case that increment value is a little bit less. So we've tried to, account for that if that increment value isn't necessary, isn't realized. There's really two choices. I mean, most likely the city will need to use some other funds on an interim basis to cover those payments. But if that increment value comes at a later date, all this debt service is TID eligible, and the city can, repay itself from the TID district once that increment materializes. So we're trying to kind of build up the cash flow here over a few years to give the city some cushion as well. So we've tried to kind of mitigate this with a couple of different ways.
Before I go, another question before I forget this, that $7.5 million should be private investment or could be city investment too?
It's taxable value, so.
Taxable value, okay,
Correct,
fine,
correct.
okay. Any question for Greg? So how we're gonna, we have different resolution, and each of them is from the different projects, so we should go and vote, we need to vote it individually, isn't it?
That's correct. They each require separate action, but they're all related to one finance.
Yeah, okay, so, so he explained all of them together, but we need to vote separately, okay? If you have any other question, we can ask. I have other question, but I want to ask in council because we don't have okay?
Okay.
So, but anyone has any question? Gabriela or Randy or no?
No, not right now.
Okay. So we are going, thank you, Greg. We are going to go for the first one. Okay, so I need a motion to approve resolution. Oh, no, we are already there. So all those in favor of resolution R-179-20 say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. Next, I need a motion to approve resolution R-180-20 is the initial resolution authorizing general obligation bonds in amount not to exceed $16,910,000 for the street improvement project. That one is from the fish hatchery.
Motion to approve.
Any question? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. Next, I am looking for a resolution to next for a motion to approve resolution R-181-20 is the initial resolution authorizing $3,065,000, $3,065,000 in general obligation refunding bonds.
I move to approve.
Any question? No? Okay. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays, the motion carried. So next, I need a resolution, a motion to approve a resolution R-182-20 is a resolution directing publication of notice to elector relating to bond issue. This is what we need to do every time that we issue bonds, okay?
I move to approve.
Any question? All those in favor say aye.
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 Nays, the motion carried. So next, our last one is, I need a motion to approve resolution R-183-20 is a resolution providing for the sale of not to exceed $20,590,000 general obligation corporate purpose bonds, series 2020A.
I move to approve.
Any question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays, the motion carried. Okay, so we can ask more questions in council if you have, okay? Thank you, Greg. So the next item in the agenda is announcement. Our next meeting is gonna be October 27. We have October 15 is the combined meeting with the EMS and the other municipalities. So I recommend Finance Committee member to attend that meeting. Okay, so all those in favor of, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 So we are adjourning at 6:59. Okay.